G'day, friends and fans. Welcome to Writing Corner. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate, author of the book, The Boyhood Arcade, Power Games, and Into the Owl's Mound. All part of the Empire of Elves series. Now, before I begin, I'd like to remind you that this channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience. So please, take a moment to like, share, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe. YouTubers, don't forget to hit the notification bell. And X, you can hit my, the link under the video after the show to check out my profile. Yeah, profile. So you can follow me on X. Of course, what is science fantasy? Well, it's my favorite genre. I write in science fantasy. Science fantasy is a hybrid genre, of course, as suggested by its name, of speculative fiction that simultaneously draws on the tropes of both science fiction and fantasy. Conventional science fiction story of the world is presented as scientific logical, and conventional fantasy is mostly supernatural with artistic elements that disregard science, well, at least scientific laws for the real world. With the world of science fantasy, however, science and scientific logic is not hard science. During the golden age of science fiction, science fantasy stories were seen in sharp contrast to the hard science material or the plausible science at the time. Now, some people may take offense, but this is the opinions of TV tropes. Fantasy is for babies. It's just a make-believe fairy tale. Sci-fi, on the other hand, is a thinking squid's game genre. It's about exploring the potential of the universe based on actual science. Space dragons. Yeah, that's right. Basically, yeah. Star Wars is not science fiction. It is science fantasy. Robots and wizards, spaceships and dragons. Laser swords, force powers, hell dragons, teleporting between planets. Well, you got a cyber hand. That's science fantasy. Science fiction and fantasy can be difficult sometimes under normal circumstances to tell apart. But there are sufficient tropes. Analyze the science, and if you can feel the touch of magic behind the science, like not obvious sorcery, but unbelievable technology that defies comprehension, can actually be considered fantasy. And in a manga, you'll actually find a lot of science fantasy. And a lot of them are very popular. Digimon, Hunter x Hunter, Kintara, the 2008 miniseries. But no, see, you started as a fantasy. Nejima, very famous. One Punch Man, Outlaw Star, Pula Magica, Madoka. Very popular. If you are into science fantasy or science fiction and fantasy, you should check out Pulina Magica, or basically it's primarily it's a Magic Girl show, but taking place in a futuristic city with a series of conflicts, which is basically approaching the heat death of the universe. So there's a lot. Sailor Moon is a urban fantasy, science fantasy. There's a lot of Samurai 8 is a retelling of a classic story, but with cyborgs and robots. Pretty Cure is another magical girl that is actually also science fantasy. Wolf's Rain, I highly recommend this. It's incredible. You think it starts off as some futuristic, but it's actually set 10,000 years in the past. It's actually dealing with a massive global crisis, and then the realization. Don't want to spoil it, but it is amazing. It's an incredible story. Absolutely incredible. Wolf's Rain. Now, in comic books, it's Lord Judge Dredd. You have Psi Powers and Judge Dredd. Fan fiction, like my own, or not actually fan fiction, but independent fiction is often called fan works. But there are fan fictions and fan works, as well as independent media, lots of literature, films and animation, live action. I don't know that Riddick, DC, all superpower stuff set in urban. Now, Sucker Punch, Goblins, Star Wars, space fantasy, he called it. Farm boy meets wizard. There's lots of science fantasy. And the thing is that it's becoming it's a growing genre. It's growing all the time. A lot of fantasy is actually getting more and more delving into science and fantasy science to fill the gap, because science fiction gives us the greatest possibilities. But if you add the fantasy element, you just multiply the possibilities and make them more fantastical. We all dream of a more fantastical world, and perhaps if science sufficiently progresses through the use of exotic matter or other mind-bending phenomenon actually made real or through technology, you pretty much simulate magic with solid holograms. And that's a mind-blowing thing to consider, that you could make technology make magic real. Yeah. The whole until in the 1960s, warp drive was just basically something in far-fetched edge of reality from third laws of relativity about time dilation, all that. But you think about it, you create a Star Trek. What do? They create a magic bubble around the spaceship and fart out small amounts of gas in hyperbursts, in controlled hyperbursts, that is, and like every fraction of a second, huge volumes of gas are sucked in and blown out the back. Basically, magic. Because in space there aren't magic volumes of gas. Or the huge, or the Star Trek dilithium crystals that turn to stabilize antimatter reactions. How do they do it? Well, you pulse light into it. What? It's magic? Yeah. Star Trek. It's magic. And you'd be surprised how much sci-fi is actually science fantasy. And it really blows the mind, because after all, Spock's mind reading powers. Didn't he actually confer them on? Yeah. So really, actually, almost a lot of things, as I said before, you look at, other than hard science, most science fiction is actually fantasy. Anyway, as far as writing goes, choose your level of tropes, and don't be afraid to delve into the fantasy side, and don't sell yourself as hard science, and you just A-okay. And don't care about the haters because they're going to hate you anyway. So thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to support the channel, go the extra mile. Make a donation through Ko-Fi. Become a patron today. All the links are in my link tree, including my books in the link tree, and of course my merch store. Please and thank you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.